Recognized. Our gentlewoman from.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I thank my colleague from California for yielding me the customary 30 minutes. And I also am happy to see you back doing well. So I appreciate that. And we're here in the chamber together. Madam Speaker, we're here considering the rule for 3 controversial, divisive bills being moved forward by the majority, with very little input from Republicans or the millions of Americans these bills will affect. 2 of these bills are highly controversial gun control bills that undermine the constitutional right to bear arms. H.R. 8, the so-called universal background check bill, would criminalize the private transfer of firearms. Combined with the restrictions already placed on private transfers during the pandemic, this makes it impossible for law-abiding gun owners to acquire or even borrow or lend firearms. Universal background checks do not stop criminals. In fact, the majority of criminals in state and federal prison who used a firearm during their offense got that firearm by stealing it, taking it from a family member or friend, or just an underground market. In 2013, the Department of Justice's National Institute of Justice researched universal background checks and determined that they would not be effective without additional restrictions on firearms. The other gun control bill, the Charleston loophole bill, would permit the federal government to delay a firearm transfer indefinitely without any proof that the person is ineligible to possess a firearm. This bill undermines the ability for Americans to legally purchase a firearm as it subjects firearm dealers to the mercy of the federal bureaucracy. Before we jump straight to this type of constitutional overreach, it's important to remember that gun control legislation isn't going to stop criminals from gaining access to guns. In the rural district I represent, many of my constituents are hunters and sportsmen, law-abiding gun owners who utilize their Second Amendment rights. These bills undermine their ability to do so and flies in the face of unity that has been promised by the President and Democrats. And lastly, we are considering a bill that amounts to a union boss wish list that the majority is pushing, circumventing regular order and without input from the minority. Madam Speaker, labor law must strike a balance, a careful balance, between labor unions' rights to organize and employers' abilities to respond to these efforts. However, the PRO Act, a monumental rewrite to federal labor law, will massively tip the scales in favor of unions, leaving employers and small businesses with massive costs and burdensome or vague legal standards. Among the most egregious section of this bill is applying a one-size-fits-all for standard union contracts, rendering the franchise industry completely unviable by imposing a burdensome joint employer Obama rule and requiring the disclosure of private information of employees to union organizers without their consent. My great home state has a proud history of supporting organized labor, and I support employees' right to collective bargaining. However, this legislation before us today represents a misguided and unbalanced approach to labor law. I encourage my colleagues to think twice before supporting these bills that could permanently alter our job market and threaten our constitutional rights. With that, I urge opposition to this rule, and I reserve the balance of my time.